What's going on, Sabres fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Sabres Spotlight podcast, where we shine a light on all things Sabres hockey. Ryan, what's going on?
Nothing, dude. It's really funny. I just noticed that we do this every single week on the video cast where we play the intro and we both just start like bobbing our heads.
Because I'm ready for tonight, man. I feel like
Uh,
we took last week off because it just, schedule / just like weren't necessarily having as much to talk about. And now we're back. So there's a ton of news to talk about. And I feel like we're both kind of like well rested and ready to go. We've been excited for this show. So I feel like it's going to be a good one.
yeah, it's been a interesting week for the Sabres and for the NHL, like around the league. So I'm like you said, excited to jump in. But first, dude, I gotta tell you, you're old when you're worried about your hearing. Okay, so I've had like a really my bad. We always call it my bad ear. It's my bad ear. Like talk to me on this side because I can't understand what you're saying. Well, I finally went for another hearing test the other day and like with all full intention of like getting a hearing aid, which I think is sick. I think it's so cool, like to have one. So they're like, yeah, your left ear is literally 0%. Like it's basically deaf. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I knew that already. Like you didn't have to tell me. And they're like, all right, sick. So I'm gonna go in for a consultation for like hearing aid technology, I guess, is so crazy nowadays.
Oh, I bet.
So I'm kind of excited to finally like be able to hear like a normal person. Like it's insane. Like now that I'm like gonna be 32 next month, like the things I'm thinking about, like health wise, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah.
let's get this wrapped up. I don't even care if like insurance stuff doesn't cover it. I'm gonna pay for it. I'm excited, dude. I'm excited to like be a normal person.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. You get like Bluetooth in those guys now?
I don't know, dude. It's honestly, it sounds like Elon Musk is gonna Neuralink my brain or some shit. It's gonna be sick.
Do you go to your primary like once a year? Like do you
Yeah, once a year. I feel like I should start going like every 6 months.
Dude,
But yeah,
I'm
right
so
now
bad
it's
at
once a
that.
year.
I have not been to my primary in like 3 years.
Oh my God, dude. They gotta like
Yeah.
you gotta get a physical and make sure you don't have ball cancer and shit like that.
Yeah, I have not been in 3 years, and it's just like shit, just like the days just go by, and I'm like, and my mom asked me the other day and was like, "Man, when's the last time you went for your physical? You got to see the doctor." I'm like, Mom, I don't think I've been in like 3 years. She's like, you got to really prioritize taking care of yourself, which I know, but I'm also like, I just always forget to like call and schedule an appointment. So here it is,
Oh
like
my
three
God.
years
Yeah,
later.
get
But
on that. I'm gonna be on you. I'm actually gonna tell your wife tomorrow morning to get on you to go to the doctor because you need to go.
well, as far as I go, uh, we had Riley's birthday yesterday, so that was pretty dope. So she
Happy
turned
birthday, why?
Yeah, so she turned 3 yesterday, so that was cool. So I was off from work, so we had a nice day. We went to the zoo and spent a few hours there. The day was perfect. It was a nice sunny day. We became zoo members too. We bought season
Oh
passes for
yeah?
the zoo. Well,
That's
yeah, dude,
cool.
because so it's like it's pretty freaking expensive, honestly. It was $60 for us just to get in, and Owen, my son Owen, he's free, so it's $60 for the three of us, and the passes for all three of us is $120. So it's like, all right, like $120 total. So we're like, if we go twice, it's literally going to pay for itself. Which,
Yep,
we
that's
know
cool.
we'll go at least one more time. So it was like kind of like a no brainer there. But you know what's hilarious? So so we're walking around the zoo, and I'm making all these jokes the whole time, like all these like highbrow zoo member jokes. And I was like, oh, like it was like there was like a seating area. I'm like, oh, this must be for the zoo members only.
Oh my
Like
God.
I made jokes like this the whole time. It was to Katie. She was just rolling her eyes. It was so funny.
Oh,
But
she's probably just cringing visibly. Dude, speaking of the zoo, do you remember Zoo Pals? The plates?
no, up. I mean,
Oh,
probably if I saw them, but
people are gonna know what they are when they hear them. But there's a song, and I apologize for everyone that I just put the song in your head because who didn't eat on a Zoo Pals plate growing up? Like who among us? Because Zoo Pals made eating fun. All right,
I'm
enough
looking
of
it
that
up.
shit.
I'm looking it up right now. I'm looking up right now. I don't remember these things, dude.
Oh, dude, they had a song. Don't even play it because we're gonna get 0 viewers in the next 10 minutes. So
No, I'm not gonna play it. But yeah, I mean,
let's before we
those look
get
kind
carried
of
away,
dope, to be honest.
dude. They were sick. They were so cool. We should jump into the puck before we get carried away here.
All right, so we got. Well, we'll start with just some kind of news discussion, and then the show concept for today. We're going to go with lessons learned from last season. So we'll get into those. We each brought a few that we'll talk about and kind of bounce off some ideas about each other. We'll go around the league a little bit later, but starting off here with Sabres prospect Sevalov Komarov, which that is a badass name.
Dude, I feel like he has to be an NHLer just because of his name.
Yeah, he's got a pretty badass name, but he was just named the QM Defenseman of the Year. So he was a 2022 fifth round pick from the Sabres. He's 6'3", right-handed shot defenseman, and so big kid, good size, and he led all defensemen with 55 assists, 69 points during the regular season, ranked fifth with a plus 47 rating. And I don't know, have you been able to watch any highlights or see any of his gameplay at all?
Well, his highlights are nasty. Like he's good in the offensive zone, like from what I've seen, and he's kind of, I guess, from Prospect Bros, just like thinking like listening to the guys that cover prospects. He's a super bad skater. Like that's
Yeah,
the knock on him, that his skating isn't great, and the Q is kind of like at the moment like a shit league, but still, like he literally could not have done like any better. Like he's done exactly what he's needed to do down there,
yeah.
and
I mean,
his
dominate where you
team
should dominate.
his team is good. They just won the QMJHL playoffs, so they're going to be competing for the Memorial Cup, and that's super good. But I'm excited for him to get his ass in Rochester. I want to see him playing with men. I'm excited for him just because the Sabres don't have many defense prospects that like get you excited. And
Yeah,
although I'm not like excited for him, I want to see what he can do at the next level, because what he did at this level is like perfect.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, if you draft a guy, you want to see him do good. Yeah, at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen and how he's going to develop. But like you said, if you're dominating where you should dominate, see what you can do at the next level, and that's just kind of how it goes. But he was awarded as well the Guy Lafleur Trophy as the top player in the QMJHL playoffs. And just to note that this is his second year in a row winning it. So he won it last year with his Quebec team, and then he wins it this year with Drummondville. So he is back-to-back champ in at the QMJHL. And just watching some things on YouTube, like some highlights and things, it definitely. I know it's younger game or whatever, but he definitely seems to like activate offensively, which is good. I haven't had, I mean, highlights are all like goals and stuff, so I haven't really been able to see much of his like defensive play and things. So that's something I'll be looking forward to, like seeing him more like in Rochester, and seeing how he plays defensively. I think Rochester will need a little bit of help defensively next year anyways. So if he's gonna, do we know for sure he's gonna be there next year?
Yeah, he's too old next year to play in the Q, so he's
Okay.
gonna to Rochester.
Okay, so he'll be in Roch, which is good because they're going to need a little bit more defensive help. I mean, who knows if Ryan Johnson's going to be there and what that roster is going to look like going into next year, but he can definitely help out, and we'll be able to see a little bit more of his defensive play. But nonetheless, exciting prospect, and some news for him here, that came out over the last couple weeks, and everyone by now I'm sure has seen, as this news is a little bit older, but the Sabres will be picking, as far as the NHL draft goes, they have the 11th pick, which is where had the highest odds to pick. So kind of like exactly what was anticipated. San Jose gets the number one pick overall, and then Chicago gets the second overall pick. So, I mean, this is coming up quick. The draft's on June 28th. It's going to be here in about 6 weeks. What are your thoughts here about, the pick, and maybe what we should do with that spot?
You could go like multiple ways. I think David Pagnotta of the fourth period today said that Kevin Adams is open to trading the 11th overall pick for help. But like historically, I think you sent me a couple days ago like historically what type of player gets traded for the 11th pick, and it's not great. Like you would have to
Yeah,
package the 11th pick with another player or another prospect to get something of value, which I'm
yep,
open to, and I think a lot of fans are open to that happening. But I'm also open to picking at 11. Like I'm not like we gotta trade the pick kind of guy, because I've seen that sentiment a little bit like all over Twitter. Like, what happens if we trade two of Savoy and Roseanne and Kulik, and I'm forgetting other prospects? Then you kind of want to make that pick so you can backfill like eventually. So I'm good with what they do. 11th is fine. I was hoping they would get that 3% to swing in their favor and pick first overall, but it wasn't in the cards.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. But I mean, good for Mike Greer and Vanek and those guys out in San Jose that likely gonna lock up Mac with Celebrini. So that's cool for them. I don't even know, like, is there a consensus number two in this draft? I don't even know.
Not really. Like there's a Russian
Okay.
forward, Ivan Demidov, that's pretty good. There's another Russian defender, Silyev. I'm not sure his first name. A lot of Europeans that are high. There's a big center. I forget the name. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the name right now. And it's so funny because I've been like checking out mocks a little bit like recently, just because it's like why not? And we're mocked to pick a small forward. His name's Berkeley
Oh
Cat.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm like, oh
yeah.
yeah, let's go. The typical small forward. I don't mind it because like why not? But it's just so funny that like we're kind of that team that's mocked all the small forwards now.
I am. Yeah, I don't really care either way. Like I said, I sent that as soon as this news broke, and I saw news online of everybody saying, "Oh, trade the pick." I was just kind of curious. So I mean, you can go on Cat Friendly and look at all this stuff, and like I said, I sent it to you, and I was just like, "Well, what is that actually gonna like? What does that actually get you?" And just historically, I think there's only been like I sent you three, and I think that was within like the last like 11 years, and it was like it was garbage. Like it was nothing like that came of it. So like you said, if you're gonna move that pick, it's not going to be the pick alone. You're obviously going to package it with some type of prospects, and I'd be totally fine with that. Predictively, I think that they'll probably just stay there and pick. I honestly think that's what's going to happen. I think part of that is just because I need to see Adams be able to make big moves, but I also just kind of think that they just like taking draft picks and developing young kids, and that's just what they're going to kind of want to do to backfill. Does it matter? Like, do you have if they stick there and pick? Do you are you leaning towards a certain position or just like best available? Like, it's a young kid, so you don't know what the roster is going to be in a handful of years, anyways.
I
I
know.
guess.
I'm like always best guy available in the
Yeah,
NHL draft, just because it's like you said, you don't know like they're 18-year-old kids. You don't know like what your needs are. Like let's say this player is ready in 3 seasons and they're ready to make your roster. Well, you kind of don't know what your roster looks like in 3 seasons.
right, exactly. Yeah, and
So
that's what they
no,
did with Zach
CPA.
Benson. I mean, Zach Benson was the best player available in that draft. Because he dropped somewhat. I mean, everyone thought he could potentially go 5, 6, and he drops to us. So and that's at least for now worked out for sure. So yeah, so some interesting news on the draft. We'll obviously have some more stuff coming out in the coming weeks as we get closer to the draft. Just to remind everybody, that is going to be on June 28th. Perhaps the biggest news that has come out since we spoke last was a few days ago. Rochester concluded their season on Friday of last week. We were at that game, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But since they're done, the news breaks a couple days later that Appert is going to be joining Lindy Ruff and the Sabres coaching staff, and things there are finalized. So what do you think about that? Did you see it coming? Do you like the move? What do you think?
I think I saw it coming. Part of me didn't want it to happen, but part of me also did because I really like Seth Appert, and I didn't want the Sabres to lose him to another organization. We've already been an organization that has lost coaches that I've liked. Like Michael Pekka left to go be an assistant coach for the Rangers, and I didn't want to lose like another valuable coaching asset. And I think he's going to provide more in his role coaching the forwards and power play than Matt Ellis did. And I'm not here to shit on Matt Ellis. I think Matt Ellis might be a good coach, like in a certain role. Like I think we mentioned it. We didn't even mention it yet, but it's confirmed that he's going to be like the eye in the sky or like development guy,
Yeah.
and working on face-offs with the centerman. Hey, that's a great role for Matt Ellis. Like everyone says how smart he is, and I'm excited for the coaching staff to finally have like roles that kind of seem like it works.
Yeah.
Like I don't know
Yeah.
about you, I don't know about you, but I really liked the way the Amerks power play was set up and all the motion and rotation they had and getting pucks to high danger areas and using the goal line. I'm
hmm
excited to see that implemented with the Sabres.
Yeah. I mean, how many times were we watching games this year and we literally were like sent that text to each other like, "Oh, why can't the Sabres run a power play like this?" It's like
Right.
so yeah, I agree. I encourage as far as Appert goes. I mean, I am a big Seth Appert fan. I did not. I admittedly he wasn't like my first choice for like head coach, and And I think that's fine. I don't mind if this is the succession plan. He's, coming on in a couple of years, and Lindy's here because we don't have to pay him a lot of money because New Jersey can. And, while we're paying Don, like whatever, like that seems to be the avenue they're going. I'm fine with that if it works out. I would encourage listeners, if you haven't, to check out Appert's press conference. I listened to the whole thing today, and it's pretty damn good, man. Like I really enjoy. I've always enjoyed listening to Seth. I think he gives good answers. You can tell he's very knowledgeable. But what I liked the best, a few things. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there's a few answers in particular that I just like. When I heard them, I was like, okay, this guy, he seems to be. I'll put it this way. I think Appert alone. I'm so excited with the rough hire, but I think Appert alone would have been an upgrade from Don. And now with him as assistant and Lindy at the helm, again, I think the two of them can really make this work, which is good. But
what a breakdown! Holy God!
But there was a question about the power play, and his answer, and I think you've seen this too. He said, him and Lindy are very much aligned on the power play. Appert's going to be running the power play and the forward and being responsible for like the forward group and things. And he talked about it was. I just appreciated the fact that it was a well thought out answer and there was strategy involved as opposed to just like, oh, we gotta like hustle more or we need more effort or like we got to get more pucks to the neck. Like he talked about
we should call those Donisms.
Yeah, Donisms. Yeah. So he talked about getting pucks to the net, but he said you have to get pucks to the net with men in front of the net. Like you have to crowd the net, you have to use the bumper, and you have to get pucks to the neck specifically to get the penalty kill out of shape. And when you get them out of the shape, whether it's a diamond, whatever, when they get out of shape and they're chasing, then that's when your skill can take over. And we have a ton of skilled players that can make plays. And I feel like that's an area we struggled with this year where it was obviously stagnant all year. And we're in that type of scenario, how are you utilizing the skill of the team? You're not. You're just hoping for a Tage one-timer, which worked 2 years ago, but it didn't work this year. And so I appreciated that because I could see a direct correlation between some of the failures from this season and where that can immediately like change next year. And I think the players will really like that a lot. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the power play and what I said there before I move on, but
well, did you happen to read? I don't even know where this interview came from, but I saw like a snippet of power play talk from Lindy. Did you happen to catch it? Did I send that to you? I'm not sure if
you sent that to me. Yeah, you sent that to me.
Oh man. It really got me so excited. Just him talking about how in today's NHL, you can't just pass the puck around the perimeter and try to score one-timers. And he said that the most important player on the power play, in his opinion, is the bumper player. And how often did we see last year Jeff Skinner, who is, as much as Jeff Skinner is a good goal scorer, even strength, and one of the best even strength goal scorers of the last like 15 seasons. He's not a power play player. And how many times did Don put him in the bumper only to like lose the puck? And it's like, dude, you gotta try to get your best distributor in that position. And for Lindy to emphasize that, we're gonna be seeing a lot of like fluid distribution this year, I hope.
Yeah, who do you think that would be? Like, do we have a good bumper player last year? I mean, maybe honestly, Benson was the best.
They used Benson in preseason and then literally didn't do it at all in the regular season. Wasn't that so strange? Like he almost looked like it was natural to him, and then we never did. I can't recall somebody just consistently being in the bumper for us this year. And I mean, the power play was a mess, whatever. But I mean, dude, Sam Reinhart scored 50 fucking goals from the bumper this year. Like, you got to have a guy that can equally threaten you with a shot or a pass, and we need to find a guy that can excel there because clearly that's the way that our power play is going to run, at least philosophically.
Yeah, so I was really pumped up from that answer. He got a good question about being an assistant coach now and how he is going to handle that or how he thinks he can help Lindy and going from the head coach position to the assistant coach. And I thought his answer was really insightful because he basically said, now that I've been a head coach, I understand how much goes into it. like all of the responsibilities, all of the pressure, and all the extra things you have to do besides just like being what people assume is a head coach and just being behind the bench. And so he basically said, because I know what it takes, I can hopefully help and support Lindy more with having that experience and just knowing how much is on the plate, how much pressure there is. And I just thought like that to me that was just very insightful, and it seemed like that's a good way to answer that question. So
Yeah.
I got kind of excited for I got kind of pumped up for that. And then he had this one other question about his favorite like moments as an Amerks coach, and he talked about all the playoff runs and whatnot, but he mentioned specifically this game. I think he said it was against Providence, like during the COVID season. I think like his first year here, either 2020 or 2021, where he said they were like completely decimated with injuries, and they literally had they were getting guys like the day of the game driving in from all over the place just to like put a team together. And he mentioned that they had the goalie that night was like a bartender, like a local bartender, like at that night, like but like someone within the organization, obviously. But and they win the game. They win the game, and he said they made the playoffs that season by 1 point, and that's a game that and it was just kind of cool perspective about how like he remembered like all those details and like how important that one game was to the whole season, and that you couldn't like take that game off, and the guys all came together. He seems like a good developer, but he also seems like a good leader when I hear him. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I don't think you can accuse Seth Appert of like not holding his players accountable. Like for all accounts, he was hard on those guys, like and push the right buttons too. Not like
Yeah.
being a hard ass just to be a hard ass, but like understanding that like, hey, sometimes you gotta like, bear down on these guys and they I mean Rochester, all the players love him, so they
Hmm.
definitely like received his coaching like quite well and I'm excited for him, man. I also think that his relationship with our young players is important. Like I
Hmm.
feel like he can elevate Jack Quinn's game because he coached him before. I feel like he can elevate a JJ, and I feel like if Kulik or Roseanne do make the roster, he knows them. He just coached them for 2 to 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. I'm ready for it.
Well, yeah, and stylistically, if that is his style, because he said his style matches Lindy, is that he'll hold you accountable, like he'll be tough on you. So like if those, because that was something that Don struggled with, and we talked about that, is that maybe there was some coddling, or he was looked at as a friend. Well, like if Appert has always kind of been that persona, like, hey, I'm going to be tough on you, I'm going to demand the best from you. Well, Lindy's going to be doing the same thing, right? So there's no mixed emotions there. There's no mixing that up. The guys know this is what I can expect from my coach. They're going to be on me. They're going to get me working, and that's going to come from both the head coach and the assistant. So, yeah, I'm excited for it, man. His interview got me pretty pumped up. We'll get into something that didn't pump us up,
Oh man,
or maybe did.
like for the wrong reasons, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So by now, we're talking about the Kyle Poso quotes, and I don't have the exact quote, but I could paraphrase, right? So I'll let you go because you said it to me. So I don't know if you want to, kind of go through and talk about what Poso said. This was from a Florida journalist, 3-4 days ago. Came out with this article.
I am trying to find it right now so I can be as accurate as possible.
Yeah,
Okay,
because
he
I know we
said,
both have takes here. So
let's see. I'm trying to find it. Give us a second, bear with me. Okay, here we go. Kyle said, I think I'm a pretty objective person, so when you looked at the year we had in this year in Buffalo, there wasn't really the proof that we were the same team that we were the year before. We weren't playing like it, we weren't playing well in stretches. So could we squeak into the playoffs with a miraculous run at the end? Maybe. But it wasn't going to happen. So I had to make a decision. As much as you want to stay and you want to push and fight with those guys, I think you kind of see the writing on the wall. I think this is a fair point from him. But he did say this. It was difficult in October and November for me because you could see it right then and there that part of it was just difficult to kind of go through that knowing there was just something that wasn't there. I agonized over trying to figure that out, but at the end of the day, I'm really happy where I ended up. Dude,
yeah, no shit.
Good for
Freaking
Kyle
Stanley
for
Cup.
ending up in Florida on one of the best teams in hockey. But you notice this? I mean, we've been saying the same thing this entire year. I mean, since October and November. I think, personally, this is pretty much bullshit. Just because, as two fucking fans talking about the team in our basements right now, I think we can say stuff like that. But for the captain of your hockey team to say stuff like that, that's kind of ridiculous. Like, you don't think that they looked at their captain, who admittedly probably shouldn't have come back,
Right.
and to make it look like you kind of gave up before Thanksgiving?
Mm-hmm.
Man, no wonder like we could only win like one game in a row and then would lose one and then would win one. There was
Yeah.
just nothing there, even from the captain, to say we haven't started out the best, but we're better than this. And I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
that was said, but at some point you got to go out and do it. And man, I feel like this whole bringing back a Oposo thing was like a massive mistake. And if that was his feelings, then it's like, man, for me, you kind of like burnt all the goodwill you had.
Yeah, that's why. So it's such an important point what you said there, because when I originally saw this quote, and I've been critical of Okposo on this post. I think we both, or on this podcast, I think we both have, as far as giving him some blame towards the failures of this season, and then you see a post like this, and you feel somewhat vindicated. It feels bad to say that, but in a way, I also wonder, like, was that more of a concern? And I think the thing I struggle with is that when this came out, I thought for sure that everyone online would be like, "Oh well, this is Oposo's telling the truth here. Like, yeah, who wouldn't want to get out of Buffalo? And this guy's done so much for the city and stuff. And like, yeah, while all that may be true, the biggest problem I have is what you just said there. Like, he signed a free agency deal to come back to the Sabres because he wanted to see this through. No one was forcing him to come back for $2.5 million in the offseason. He could have went and played with a contender if he wanted to, but he said, "I'm going to come back to Buffalo. I'm gonna try and see this through. We were 1 point away last year. I want to be the captain that puts them over the top, and I feel like I have a good influence in this locker room." And he was saying all the right things back then. So then to see this quote afterwards, where he seemingly gave up in October or November, it's kind of damning, and it frustrates me because you could somewhat see that. And these kids we talk, and you have the youngest team in the league. You're looked up to as a leader. These kids' minds are still very malleable and moldable. It's like you said. How do you think that made them feel? We've talked about this team and their feelings and things, right? And so, like, they probably were like you said, my captain doesn't even give a shit anymore. I mean, going back to that game against Columbus when they get pumped 9-4, when you lose 9-4 and you go back to the locker room, you don't only have four guys in that room. I don't care if it's October or November, whenever that was. Like, you stay until your coach comes back and you face the music. Like, it's just I think it shows that obviously he kind of mail things in and whatever. I can understand you going there, but no one was forcing him to come back. And I think that's my issue with it, is that you decided you wanted to come back, and then you just mailed it in when the going got rough. And the going's been rough here for 13 years, I suppose. So you were supposed to help us out of it. So, and you didn't. So whatever. See you later.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sad about it because I think he's a great guy and obviously like one of the like good guys in hockey. Like he's got that reputation, but man, it just sucks the way that it ended. That now he's saying all this when it
Do
was
you
like,
think?
go ahead.
I was gonna say, because there's another side of this where the Sabres, just like the Eichel thing, like the Sabres obviously take a lot of credit for this. Like, for him to say that he could tell they weren't the same team from last year and that there was too inconsistent, they weren't going places. Like, what do you think he was seeing? Because when I read something like that, that's like those are pretty strong words. So that to me is
Well,
like what was so different? What did he see that obviously we're all not privy to or we're not seeing?
well, I mean, we didn't have the toughness. We didn't have the obviously training camp was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
for like multiple people to come out and say that they had a horrible training camp, including the general manager. It's like, well, shit, dude, the writing must have been over before it started. So I
Yeah.
can see why it burned him out like early, and then especially seeing that like, oh my god, we're not really like doing hot, but like, damn man, you would think that like with what you saw last year that you would want to be like, all right, we did this last year, we can do it again. But it didn't work out like that, and I think he was seeing the bad practices, the bad habits that we had, guys making mistake after mistake after mistake and not being benched, and that's obviously not Kyle Oposo's fault, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really like wore him down.
Yeah. Do you?
You know who wouldn't tolerate it? You know who wouldn't tolerate it? This guy, Rob Ray. He wouldn't tolerate that shit at all. He'd beat the piss out of it. I don't even want to get him into shape. That's what he would do.
So you think that's more? You think that's more on the coaching staff then?
Yeah,
Because
I don't
that
want to
can be
sugar
kind of
Kyle.
scary. But that can be kind of scary to think that like he felt like he was doing this all on his own when like, well, he's gone now, and where there's supposedly this changing of the guard. If he felt, I don't know, to you is that kind of scary to think that like maybe there's not as much leadership on the team as we thought, or do you think that they're ready for this next step?
I also like think there needs to be roster improvements. Like nothing he said is wrong. That's the thing.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
Nothing
I
he
know.
said is
That's
wrong.
why it's like I'm like 65 against him and like 35 with him because like I
I
see
know.
both sides, but I'm holding him a little bit more
I'm
accountable. But
disappointed more. I guess to sum it all up, I'm just disappointed that like the captain of my hockey team was feeling the same way as I do, a regular fan.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, well we can move on from that. I'll be interested to see. For those listening, send us a message on Twitter or let us know that what you think because it'll be interesting to see where things go and what happens with the captaincy and things. But I
This
think
segue
it's
is about to be unreal.
yeah. So it's time to get into lessons learned from last season. This is set to be a annual off-season episode, probably around this time. Every year where we can kind of put a bow on last year and talk about not just complaining or saying all the things that went wrong, but looking towards the future and how can we grow and learn from what we saw this year. And there was certainly enough that we can expound on as we go. So I'm going to go first. My first
Yes.
one here, first lesson learned from last season: slow starts are costly. What I mean by this is 75% historically. 75% of teams that are in a playoff position at Thanksgiving eventually clinch a playoff spot. And these statistics are dating back to 2005 at the beginning of the salary cap era. But it's a pretty well known thought out there that if you get off to a good start, those first 20 games or so, then you can, and you're in a playoff spot at Thanksgiving, then you're likely going to be in the hunt, or like I said, 75% of the time in the playoffs. And if we look at this season, the playoff teams at the Thanksgiving deadline, I'll say, were the Rangers, Capitals, Hurricanes, right? So Rangers in, Hurricanes in, Capitals. Everyone thought they were no good, but I mean that's proof right there, right? They're in at Thanksgiving and they eventually got in. So a hot start and they get in. Boston, Florida, Tampa Bay from the Atlantic, all playoff teams. And then if you look at the wild card, it was Toronto in wild card spot, and then Detroit. And I don't think anyone is sad about seeing Detroit drop out. Obviously, the Islanders move in and get that last spot from Detroit. But those wild card teams, Toronto had 22 points at the time. Detroit had 21 points at the time. The Sabres were 8-9-2, so 18 points through those first 20 games. And we talked about at that time how the slow start was a problem, but also the fact that there was just a mix of teams, right? So the problem is that you can't get off to a slow start, but then it's very hard to catch up points in this league as well. And if you have at Thanksgiving, if you're 3 points out or 4 points out, 5 points out, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you have to make up that ground and pass maybe 3 teams in the process, or have teams that are above you fall, that's a lot. And this was a team this year that we criticized some of the player interviews. I was very critical of Tage Thompson early on, and some of the young players for not taking the slow start important enough. Not thinking that it was as critical of a problem as it is, and here we are. And so I think hearing some of the exit interviews and things, this is something that they seem to have learned, and only time will tell. But they need to get off to a hot start next season if they're going to have any chance, and if they're going to get that belief at the beginning of the season that they're looking for.
This team needs a 10-game win streak early in the worst way.
10 games is kind of. I mean, that would be nice, but
Give me a good 4-game, 5-game win streak. Like, it would be so nice if, like, let's say early they like start 2-2, right? And then they come back and rip off 4. And then they lose in overtime and they rip off another 4. Like, that would be excellent for me.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, and the inconsistencies were the big thing. I mean, did they even win 3 games in a row this year?
They did that. They won 3 games in a row. They never won more than 4.
Yeah, but they didn't win 3 games in a row until like April, or like
Right.
late March. It's like, well, I mean, that's way too late by then. You
got to learn to stack wins.
Yep, you got to stack wins, and you got to do it early. You got to do it early. You got to believe in the system, and you got to get to training camp ready to work, and be ready to work at the beginning of the season. So hopefully that's something they can improve next year.
Yep. My first lesson learned is it's time to prove who exactly you are. And I'm talking about 2 players. Even though I love Owen Power, I'm not going to dog on him because I feel like second half of the season he was unreal. And first half of the season he was kind of but still like good. But Dylan Cousins, the second year of his big deal is starting. You need to start playing like a $7 million player. Owen Power, your big deal is kicking in. You need to start playing like an $8.3 million player. And I'll even include Rasmus Dahlin in this, even though I didn't write him down, and he's always unreal. But your $11 million deal kicks in. If you do this thing again where you forget how to play hockey until November, like has plagued him in the past, it's really going to hurt. I'm going to need the guys that are here, the big guns, the big dogs, to lead the way early. And if you don't, then we're in a lot of trouble. And I'm going to need them to learn the lessons that they had last year and start out hot. And honestly, I'll include it in here, but I'm going to need some of these guys to try to understand that, like, you need to push games into overtime even if you lose.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all.
If you're on the ice and you're protecting a lead, like those specific players, I'm going to, like, because they will be, you got to somehow hold the lead. Or if you're on the ice on a 6-on-5, every so often you got to put the puck in the net. Like, we need loser points next year. Like, I don't even give a shit if we go to overtime 15 times and lose like 12. I don't care. Even though that's unrealistic, obviously, because you're not just going to win only 3. Like, mathematically, it's almost impossible to lose that many games. But, man, just go to fucking overtime. I want to go to bed late next year a lot. I want to go to bed late. I'm saying it right now. I will gladly go to bed late because we're playing in overtime.
Well, and if you're screwing off in practice, or your practices are a joke, you think you're going to be able to push games to overtime in the NHL? Like it's just how you practice is how you're going to play. That effort, that attitude, that mentality is going to translate to the games. And I think a lot of what you're saying here can be improved with the coaching changes too. I mean, even with the slow start, the slow starts to all the games, the slow start to the season, and just holding guys like this accountable. I mean, you didn't see Don call these guys out early on, and Don even shoved off the slow start, like, oh, we got a lot of hockey, to go.
Yeah.
Like, you think Lindy's going to be saying that? Like, oh, we got a lot of hockey. Like, he might, but he's going to say, yeah, guys weren't good enough tonight. I need this guy to do this. I need this guy to do this. I need this guy to do this. Their practices are not going to be run the way that they were before. So, these guys are they're gonna start getting treated like $7 million players and $8 million players, and we'll see how they respond. And I think they need that. I think they want that. So, so we'll see. I think those are 2 good names to bring up, Dylan Cousins.
I will say, I'm excited for them because I'll include Bowen Byram here too, even though he's got like a a new slate. Like this is like he wasn't very good his time here. Like once the coaches got a hold of him, he kind of started playing Buffalo Sabres hockey and was terrible.
Crazy, man, crazy.
But I will say that those guys are with Canada at the World Championships right now, and they're all playing pretty well. So just carry that over. Feel good about yourself going into your off season and bring that to training camp with you. That actually happened at Paterka last year. He was the leading scorer at the World Championships, and that was kind of like putting the league on notice that it's like, hey, I'm ready for a breakout. And then look what happened to him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my next one kind of blends into some of the things we already said. I call this one "Nice Guys Finish Sixth." This is basically a little shot at Don here. I think it's hard to blame Kevin Adams for this. I think Don was a good coach for developing these guys, and we obviously extended him way earlier than we needed to. So it was probably hard for Adams to see the eventual downfall of Don Granado, but there's no denying that the slow start in camp, the slow start of the season, that should have sounded alarm bells right away, right? And how many times did we get on this show early on in the season and say, hey, these other teams are firing their coaches and they're setting that standard that this is not acceptable. I mean, how many games early on were we losing, 1-2 nothing after like 5 minutes? The game had just started and you're seemingly out of it and you're already trying to play catch up the entire game. So this is more, listen, Don had a hard time translating from friend to head coach, and Adams had a hard time making the hard decision to let him go. If this team's going to take the next step, if this team is going to become a serious franchise where players want to come and play, experienced players want to come and play, they don't want to come to this version of the Buffalo Sabres. They might want to come to a Lindy Ruff coach version of the Buffalo Sabres, but Kevin Adams has to put his big boy pants on too, and you cannot be afraid to make these hard decisions. You can't be afraid to move a prospect for a vet, potentially lose a trade. You can't be afraid to sit this guy because he's not producing. You can't be afraid to do whatever you got to do to like make changes of the power play structure. Like you can't be afraid to make these calls and fire guys or move guys into different positions if you need to. And that's basically what I'm trying to kind of convey with this point is if this is a young team, if they're just allowed to come to the rink, be happy and do whatever the hell they want and no one's held accountable and you're not going to make the hard decisions that you need to, it's going to continue to feel like that and you're going to continue missing the playoffs.
Your point goes right into mine because mine is titled, if it's broken in November, change something. Dude,
Seriously.
You're spot on. You're spot on there. And I mean change something. Let's just, like, Lindy, I feel like, will be less hesitant to put a player in the press box for a night. And not, like, putting Zach Benson or Eric Johnson in the press box. Like, if Alex Tuck has a bad game and has a bad stretch of games, have him sit for a night. Like, it doesn't. It sends a message. And if your record is still shit by January again, you can't like let it get that far. The Sabres record at the end of December was 15-19-4. Not nearly good enough.
No.
I need Kevin to recognize early that something needs to change. And if he's going to sit on his hands, he's going to be the next to go. Like, I'm sorry, I like the way Adams talks. I'm very susceptible to his press conferences. I get hyped and I start believing in him. But like you just said, if things are spiraling early, you need to fix them.
Do you think he didn't this year because he didn't believe like in the team? Like if he truly saw it was a bad training camp and he's obviously on the inside of all of this, he knows more than anybody else what's going on. He's talking to Don every day. Do you think he maybe just had a lack of belief in the team this year too? And he's like, this is not the year for me to make a big move or to change something early on. Well, you could have done it easily with the coach, so I don't I blame him wholeheartedly for that. He could have changed the
I mean,
coach easily,
it's
but
his roster, man. It's his roster.
I
He's the
know
one
that's
that
what I'm
assembled
saying.
it.
Like whether you believe that or not, like are you just gonna let a whole year go to waste? Like the talk.
Especially on a team that is fighting a 13-year playoff drought.
Yeah, that's so yeah, it's so true. And the
Like
talk coming
if
into the season was playoffs. Like they set those expectations for
I
themselves.
think I think I can accept a throwaway season if we miss the playoffs for 2 years. And like the
Right.
third year, you're just seeing that it's like, okay, it's really not working, but we're not really in a position to blow it up or make a major change. Dude, this was your roster that you wanted to break the drought. So I need to him have some foresight early in the next season. And we have a
Yeah.
whole summer. Like we have a whole summer here. Right now, I'm excited to see what he's going to do. But if it doesn't happen and come September when training camp is here and the roster is not greatly improved, I'm going to be very scared.
Yeah. 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 I agree. I agree. All right, my last one here is called "The Beast is Brewing," and this is in regards to Devin Levi. So I think it's pretty clear to see that Devin Levi is going to be a good goalie, but he very clearly wasn't the exception to the rule. There was a lack of foresight in how the Sabres managed him this season, and expectations for him with this franchise, and thinking that he was going to come in and just take the reins. And we had everyone believing in it, and part of that was because how he ended the 22-23 season, playing so well, and the hype got real. And but they're we're fans, like they need to know this, they need to know how to manage them. But it was very clear to me to see that Devin Levi was a good goalie. Sure, he played like a rookie. But again, you saw those flashes of brilliance on the ice, and then there was an inconsistency at times for sure. I mean, there was when Levi was in net, everyone was either tweeting after like, "Oh my God, he won that game for us," or like, "What the hell was he doing? Send him down to Rochester." Like
Yeah.
it was no in between, and that's just him being a rookie goalie. But again, he showed that he can do it. Money Puck actually had him at a as a plus 10.7 goals saved above expected for the season.
Yeah.
Um, and he's been dominating in the AHL. So he's 16-6-4, or he was 16-6-4 with a 924 save percentage in Rochester. That save percentage is the best mark for all AHL goaltending. So he's very clearly an AHL, a pro level goaltender, and he's going to more likely than not be with the club next year as the backup goalie behind UPL, and potentially the starter if he comes in and is playing better. I mean, we love UPL on this show, and he played great last season, but you just never know. Goal is a very inconsistent position,
Yeah.
but I am very
Dude,
excited for Devin Levi, and for him to eventually be the guy. I think he's going to be a stud, and he's brewing down there in Rochester, and he's coming up one day, and I hope soon.
I took a look at UFA goalies this year. Like, just for this, let's see. Like, they're going to need to sign a UFA goalie to play in Rochester this year because I do think Devin Levi is going to be the backup, and I think that's great. Uh, UPL needs to not shit his pants if Devin Levi is behind him.
Hmm.
Like, understand that you are the number one. It is your job to outplay this guy. And even though I love Devin Levi, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to a little friendly competition there.
Yeah,
But man, I was looking over the UFA goalies. Oh my God, they are so shit.
yeah. There's
Like,
no one.
there's no one out there. Like, it's gonna be Levi. Like, it has to be. Considering he
Yeah.
played so well for Rochester, I'm excited about that. And so we didn't have to throw in like an Eric Comrie in there and just know that we're getting beat 5-0. It's like 5-3.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think, and I put that note in here about Comrie too, is that I think him playing poorly maybe forced their hand a little bit more, at least this season, to kind of have him be up. Because I think if Comrie comes in and shows that he can be a capable backup, maybe you don't need to have Levi play as many games as he did. I mean, Levi started 20 games with the big club, and he struggled in those somewhat. I mean, he had a 3.1 goals against and a .899 save percentage. So you can see the difference between pro level save percentage versus AHL save percentage. So he's right there in the middle right now. I mean, but he's gonna catch up to the speed of the game. He's got a whole summer now to have pros shoot on him, and we'll see what happens going into next season. But you cannot say that goaltending is a question mark for the roster. It seems to be one thing that the Sabres kind of have figured out at the moment,
Yeah,
amongst other
I
things. But
I agree, man. I couldn't agree more. I'm like lost in space right now. Like in my brain, I'm just thinking about Devin Levi making 6 saves for the Sabres. I'm so excited about him.
well, I tweeted out. Actually, it was last night that Sergei Bobrovsky. I said Sergei Bobrovsky is just Devin Levi in like 3 years. Like I
It
think
sure
Levi
feels
is
that
going
way.
to be good. And there's the knocks on him being a small goalie at like 6 foot. Like Bobrovsky's only 6'2". I mean, 2 inches is 2 inches, I guess, but it's like, come on,
Ask
like,
our wives.
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, speaking of Levi and Rochester, you ready to get into some Amerks?
Oh, yeah, it made me really sad. First of all, before we get into the game, shout out to the guy that talked our ear off walking into the game. Holy shit. We parked and we met this fan. Shout out to you because you were just talking puck to us. Two strangers walking into a game for 3 city blocks, just nonstop. So shout out to you. You got me fired up for the game.
You know what the funniest part about that is? That guy was from Rochester, and he's
Oh,
asking us, "Are you going to the game?" All right, I'm going to follow you. And we're like, "We're from Buffalo, but yeah, we know where we're going." And then he
he was
goes, "All right,
talking about he was talking about how he skates in like a night league with like former Sabres. He's saying that
yeah,
he's like
Rory
best
Fitzpatrick,
buddies with Roy Fitzpatrick. I'm like, what in the world is going on right now? That guy was awesome.
dude." And then I ended up meeting Rory Fitzpatrick's like like it was just a Rory Fitzpatrick night,
Yeah,
that
shout out
that night.
Roy. Maybe you should have looked down when the puck was in your feet, you chuckle fuck. Oh,
You
that's
know what the
that's it was so funny, man. It was like the guy was just nonstop. Like he might be the king of yapping.
the funniest part about this whole encounter with us was that he we're probably like 3 blocks away from Blue Cross. Like we got like a 6 7 minute walk in, and this guy's whatever a few sidewalk blocks behind us, and he yells to us, and he goes, "All right, I'll just follow you guys." Little did we know he's gonna fucking walk, basically hold our hands the whole time, right
Yeah, dude,
between
he walked
us.
right in the middle, like right in between us. He was like he was our BFF. I'm like, okay, this is a thing.
He's talking tendon guards. He's talking
Yeah,
everything.
he's talking old school. He's like, I don't like taping up my shin guards. Like I used to wear this back in the day, and that's how we did it. Or like, I don't like visors anymore. Back in my day, if you took a puck to the mouth, you just went right back out there. I'm like, holy shit, this guy is cooked.
he was he was feeling himself. He was feeling himself. He was definitely at that brewery down the street a little bit before the game. But I got to say, I mean, we'll get into the results here in a little bit. But I got to give a big shout out to Rochester and Blue Cross, man. That place was sold out. It was bumping, man. That was a pretty electric atmosphere, to be honest.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, even though we lost, the atmosphere was fun as hell. The team played like absolute dog turd, but the crowd was into it, and it was kind of cool. I liked it a lot.
It was
especially
it,
the
it was awesome.
especially the little kid that's literally going to be your child in 5 years saying "ref, you suck" with all the fans. That was like the funniest part of the game.
Well, I want to get into those chants because there was a ton of and maybe it was just because it was a smaller venue, so you can hear stuff like that. But I mean, it was sold out crowd, and it was rowdy, man. Like the fans were fantastic. It felt like an old time Sabres game in there. And the funniest thing about the refs you suck chants is because I talked to a few of my patients about this week is like usually when someone tries to start those like a section like chimes in, like it
Yeah.
was the entire arena multiple
Well,
times saying
like
refs you suck.
this was like part of the reason they lost, but like it got really loud when Jeremy Davies got his dome piece taken off in the middle of the ice and there was no call on the play and
Yeah, he
the
didn't come
the
back to the
place
game either.
was the place was like reverberating with the chants. It was crazy.
Yeah. So the atmosphere was awesome. Shout out to everyone who went to the game. It is a shame that the Amerks really didn't play that well. It just, man, this whole series, we talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago. At that time, they were down 2-1 in the series, 2-1 in the series,
Yep.
and I know we both kind of said the same thing about how, like, if they're going to keep playing like they have these first few games, I'm not very confident in them being able to survive this series. To their credit, they have a great comeback in game 4, coming back from 3 goals in the third period to eventually win it in overtime. Again, a game that they played better in game 4. They needed to. They played a desperate third period. Friday though, game 5, it was just very flat. Like Syracuse just stifled them along the boards like they had the whole series. They couldn't get anything going through the neutral
Dude,
zone. Like
I've
passing
never
was
seen a team
awful.
I've never seen a team just lock up a breakout the way Syracuse did to us.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
I mean,
insane.
how
And
many
our passes were brutal. Like our D, they got exposed for not being puck movers. Like
yes,
especially
absolutely.
especially once Davies went out because he's pretty good in that aspect down there. Once he went out, it was over. Like they couldn't even move the puck. It was crazy.
Yeah, trying to break out of our defensive zone was like nearly impossible that whole game. Like there was very unless we had a power play and like had a man advantage, like there was no sustained pressure. I mean, do you remember like a 5-on-5 like sequence where they like actually had sustained pressure? Like it was I don't know if they ever
Not a
did. It
lot,
was
man. Especially
no.
that first 15 minutes, it was horrible.
It
And
was
even
dump
throughout the
and
game,
it was
they'd
either
get
like
their
dump
one
and don't get
chance.
it or it was like yeah, one shot and done.
Yep, yeah, they were plenty of one and done. I mean, I can't even call out a guy for playing well. Like that, it was pretty bad. The
No.
whole roster.
Yeah, and I didn't think Syracuse played like a great game either. I mean, you could definitely tell they were just playing more defensively, trying to kind of lock it down, and I think they understood that that's a way that they could have won that game because I think skill wise, Rochester is more skilled than Syracuse. So if they got into a run and gun game or more of an open style game, then that favors Rochester. That's kind of what Syracuse or that's kind of what Rochester did to them last year. It seemed like last year in their 5 game set they were able to kind of get open ice a little bit more, open up the game a little bit more, and use some of their skill to just score more goals. Whereas this year, it seemed like Syracuse kind of adjusted from last season and what they were continuing to see this year in their games that were always tight and kind of locked it down defensively and just kind of played a little bit more like they played in that 1-3-1 or 2-3. They were just locking up that neutral zone.
And despite all of that, it was 2-1 going into the third period. Like
Yep.
Rochester had a shot at it. They couldn't get pucks past the goalie. Like it wasn't their finest game. Like the veterans weren't very good. The young players weren't very good. So
Yeah.
it sucks. It sucks that the season ended like that. I thought they were going like primed for another like deep semifinal run, but it just wasn't in the stars.
Yeah. Yeah, but all in all, a very cool experience. I'm hoping, next year we'll see what happens with the head coach position there, whether it's going to be Nathan Page or if they go from outside the organization and hire someone there. But I'm hoping that we're back in the playoffs next year. We can get to a game and hopefully even a game or two during the regular season. It was a lot of fun, man. It's Rochester's a cool city and Blue Cross Arena was nice, but oh, dude, holy shit, though, you could not move in those.
Oh, dude, that concourse was insane.
Oh my god,
If you have claustrophobia, you were cooked in that concourse.
yeah,
That
like
was
it was not
nuts.
made to be sold out.
It was body to body. We were just bumping uglies in the fucking concourse. It was crazy. You couldn't get anywhere. My fat ass wanted some chicken fingers, and I could barely get it. It was insane.
I know. I just went to what did I even get? Oh, I got a Mick Ultra, which was actually
A
a good
beer.
call. Like that, yeah, that's like Mick Ultra's pretty high on my like beer tier list, anyways. But
Yeah.
I just went there because the line was short. I'm like, dude, I'm not messing around. I don't know where the hell to go right now. But
Yeah, that
so
was a
yeah.
friggin' adventure. I missed like the whole second period because of that.
So I will be rooting for Cleveland now to take out Syracuse. I cannot. I can't root for the team that took us out this year. So hopefully Cleveland will be matching up with Syracuse because Cleveland beat Belleville in that other series. So it'll be Cleveland and Syracuse in the North regional final or whatever it's called. But
Yeah, it hasn't started yet either. I just checked.
no, because they're just they're just finishing up
Do you
some
know
of the
who,
other series. But
do you know who the Hartford Wolfpack are playing in the Atlantic Division Finals?
Hartford
Y-
Wolfpack,
your favorite team?
the fucking Lehigh Valley.
No, your favorite team, Chocolate Town.
Oh my god! I thought you were saying because I always give Lehigh Valley a hard time because their name, but oh yeah, Hershey. Yeah, Hershey. Wait, Hershey won that series though.
Yeah, they won that series.
Yeah, they won three to
I just
one.
like saying Chocolate Town.
Freaking Chocolate Town, unbelievable. They're just good again. I don't know, man.
Dude,
It's
they're
just
fucking
what they
loaded.
do.
That team is like the Capitals roster. Let's be real.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you're the chocolate and white, I mean, you got to represent. So whatever. All right, we got to get into playoffs here now.
Yeah, dude. Oh my goodness.
Let's talk about what's been going on. Well,
It's been
I'm
so
gonna
much fun. And
yeah, go ahead.
while
I'm gonna
we
bring up the. I'm gonna share the screen here. We'll do an update on the bracket pool. But yeah, go ahead if you got anywhere you want to start. There's been a lot of shit
well,
going on.
there's a game going on right now. Avalanche and Stars are tied at 2.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
2-2.
with first 1 minute into the third period, and currently Dallas is leading the series 3-1. Dude, I've tried to stay up for these. Dallas is the most aesthetically pleasing team
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
in the sport right now.
Yeah.
You got their veterans, Jamie Benn doing his thing, you know, they're big guys just running around like hitting people, and then you got little fucking Logan Stankoven and Wyatt Johnston just like providing the offense. It's insane, and of
Yeah.
course you got Miro Heiskanen on the back end and Chris Tanev just being so good, man. I really wish the Sabres can somehow acquire him in the summer, like convince him to sign here, like do whatever you have to do because he's an amazing defender. But man, that series has been a lot of fun for me. I will be I kind of be sad if Colorado loses tonight and the series ends in 5,
Yeah.
but I also like wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the Dallas looked. Granted, it was after the Nichushkin news, so Colorado was
Yeah,
probably a little
dude,
bit
let's talk
shook.
about that.
But
Let's
yeah,
talk
so
about that.
Colorado was probably a little shook. But that game 4, I mean 5-1, like it looked like like Dallas took it to them, and they're kind of like to me they're the blueprint of how to be successful. Like vets with a mixture, an infusion of young talent with these guys like Stankoven and Wyatt Johnston. That's what you got to do to be successful. I think that's partly why we both picked them as far as our cup winners go, and I'm sure Ottinger as well. But yeah, you can go get into Nichushkin if you want.
Dude, I feel so bad for the guy. Like last year he also didn't play in the playoffs with that weird incident, if anyone remembers, where like he had a woman like in his like in his hotel at like 3 in the afternoon, and they were like either on drugs or drunk. Like it never really came out. Like the details are so weird, and the NHL kind of like shuffled that aside, and like it was never really brought up again. And he
Colorado
played
just
this
scored,
whole
by the way,
year.
3-2.
Okay. Oh man. Okay.
Casey Middlestat.
Let's go, Casey. Um, and this year he was on the uh, what's it called? The NHLPA. What's the program called? Oh my God, the drug abuse
Player
program.
assistance program.
Yes, players. Thank you. I could not think of the words.
I'm surprised I pulled that out of my ass.
I know. God damn. But so he's in the program, and he violated stage 3. So he must have been like messing around with whatever is ailing him. And man, I it's insane that he was playing at such a high level while also battling these demons of addiction. Like he was incredible for Colorado in the playoffs, as
Yeah.
always. And it just sucks for them to lose him. And I feel so awful that like he's suspended for 6 months and whatever is plaguing him, like mentally and his demons. I hope he overcomes them. not only because he's an unreal hockey player, but because he's a person, and you got to hope that they pull through.
Yeah, yeah. I won't speak much on that other than echoing everything that you said there, and what a blow for Colorado too on the ice, because like you said, he's been playing good, and I think you could tell in Game 4 that they were just bothered by it, right? Like that you get news like that, and then you're supposed to play a playoff game 6 hours later or whatever it was. It's like it's kind of tough to get up for that. So yeah, so Dallas is up 3-1 in that series. As far as the pool goes, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Spotify, as we post the videos there, you can kind of see on the screen here now. Posted these on X last week, the updated standings. So this is after the first round. So we got our top three there. Shout out to Sabres Fun Stats. And interesting that, and I'll just kind of skip over me quick being in last place here. But
Oh wow, I didn't even notice that. God
oh yeah,
damn, you suck.
yeah, I'm down. Hey, we'll see what happens in round 2. I can bounce back, but just some interesting things here. So you got it was somewhat chalk in round 1. I mean, the 8 favorites all won the series. So the one of the more surprising things is that, I mean, then we have 11 entries here. Rangers were the most picked to win with 4, and then Dallas actually right behind them with 3. And me and you both have Dallas. Surprising that only a couple on Edmonton, only a couple on Florida, but that's pretty much the dispersion. So as far as the winners from our standings here goes, all the winners are still intact. No like huge upsets at the moment.
Yeah, shout out my friend Colin at the top there. Shout out my
Yeah,
friend.
yeah, yeah. See, I didn't know that was him because obviously these are all like usernames, but
Yeah,
Colin interacts with our stuff on Twitter here and there for sure. So yeah, shout out to Colin, and he was saying he wasn't feeling too good about his Dallas pick, and I was a little confused as that because Dallas is playing some good hockey. So, but I think he was more specifically talking about their road being tough. But
right. Yeah, because if we can jump into the other series in the West there, but I think Edmonton is gonna come back in their series and beat
oh,
Vancouver.
you son of a bitch!
I think Vancouver's fun is over, dude. I'm sorry to say, I think Vancouver's fun it's over.
No way, Sheloffs is gonna carry him into round 3.
It's 2-2. What a fucking night from Vancouver last night too, dude. They did their thing again, came back, tied
Yep.
it with a minute to go or 2 minutes to go, and then they got their hearts ripped out by Evan Bouchard with 50 seconds to go, and they let in the winning goal. But man, the cardiac Canucks, they do it again, and they put fear in the Oilers' eyes. But dude, I gotta say this, I think Leon Draisaitl might be better than Connor McDavid.
No way, no way.
Dude, this guy in the playoffs is a fucking machine.
Yeah,
He's
I mean
just
he's a finisher, but I mean
he's
even that
just
goal he
sitting
scored
there.
last game was a freaking no look pass from McDavid. Like, how do
Yeah,
you can't set him up any better?
he's scoring goals from the fucking crowd
Oh my god!
below the goal line. The guy is a monster.
I mean he is a good finisher, but there's no way he's better than McDavid.
That's my hot take. I think he might be better than McDavid.
Okay, all right.
It's insane, man. But that team, dude, they're starting Calvin Pickard in net, and he's played what? That was his first ever playoff start because Stuart Skinner is once again horrible in the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah.
It sucks, man. Like if they run into Dallas in the next round, or even Colorado if they miraculously come back in the series, dude, it might be it for them because goaltending is just so important in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, yeah. And come on, Pickard is gonna save them. Get the hell out of here!
A
Come
guy
on.
that literally made his debut in 2014 and then was never seen again.
This just shows you like the anonymity of, like, I don't even know if that's the right word, but like the craziness of playing goalie, because like now all you see is like Edmonton fans like, oh yeah, Pickard's gonna take us to the cup, baby. Like, get the hell out of here! Like, come on, it's freaking Calvin Pickard. Like,
Dude,
No, 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 no.
I would take this guy I never heard of in Artur Shilovs over Calvin Pickard like any day.
So I was
Shilovs has been
listening.
she's been so good.
Well, okay, so I was listening. I was just taking out the garbage earlier, finishing up after the whistle. They were this was crazy to me. They said, I think it was Reve who asked Peters. Yeah,
4-2.
yeah, it was Reve who asked Peters if Makar scored, yeah. If they get to the next round on the back of Shilovs, like, and Demko is ready, do you stick with Shilovs or go to Demko? And I found it crazy that they said you stick with Shilovs. I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
no.
There's no way in
No
hell
way.
I'd do that.
No way,
I'm
dude.
not benching my Vezina contending goalie for that.
Like,
And how are you going to rationalize that if you end up losing and you got Shilovs in net and not
and not Demko.
that's your Demko? There's no way.
Yeah, Shilovs has been great. It's a great story, but if Demko is eventually healthy, they're inserting him. Like there's no question about it.
Yeah, yeah. This series it will be interesting. I'm obviously rooting for the Canucks. I've been kind of pounding the table for them all year, and they've had a heck of a season. I this it's weird because I don't feel like they've really gotten outplayed this series. I feel like it's been like somewhat 50-50. I don't know. It's so this series is will be fun. I think it's going to go 7 games, and we'll see what happens with how it ends. But I think these are two pretty evenly matched teams, honestly.
I will say, dude, I just lost it. I just lost it.
The top line on
It's gone.
Vancouver, dude, the top line on Vancouver can
Oh,
stick with this team.
I
Like,
remember.
Besser is just playing out of his mind. JT Miller, like, that line is
Dude, JT Miller's
a
a
great
friggin'
top line.
beast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I remembered what I was about to say. Dakota Joshua is pricing himself out of Buffalo. Like that guy is going to get paid way more than I would want to pay him. Oh, he's just a big body, can move. He's doing everything well, and I think he's gonna price himself out of like a potential UFA deal here, and that like makes me sad because like that was my targets.
Yeah, but I don't trust guys with 2 first names, so that's fine. Yeah.
That's so funny. Anything else
All
in this
right.
series? Or you want to move on to the next one?
On this series, no, not really. No, not really. Other than that, I'm just curious to see if Demko will be back, and I think if he is going to be back, and then you got to put him in net for Game 6 in Vancouver. So, but we'll obviously see what happens from there. No, we can move on wherever you want to go.
Let's go to New York and Carolina.
All right, you think you're going to get a reverse sweep or no?
It would be the funniest. It would be the funniest thing. So I gotta tell you, there's this girl at my work from Brooklyn, uh, and she's not like a hockey fan. She's like a basketball fan, and
Oh, 4-3.
oh, let's go. Okay, she
Stanky.
what a guy. Uh, so she always hears us talking about hockey, and she's like, and we're talking about like the fights, and like we're talking about McDavid getting cross-checked in the throat the other day. And she's like, I think I'm gonna give hockey a try. And since I'm from Brooklyn, I'm gonna cheer for the Rangers. Now this was when the Rangers were up 3-2 in the series.
No,
Or
3-0,
3
right?
3 3-0 in the series. And suddenly it's 3-2. So it would be the funniest thing for a new hockey fan to experience a reverse sweep after being up 3-0. Like I'm hoping that the Rangers push it to or that the Hurricanes push it to game 7.
It'd be crazy.
But dude, this was the first time all season that the Rangers have been like outplayed in the playoffs. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
last
They've
two
been good.
games,
They've been good.
Carolina has been desperate and
Yep,
they've been
yep, yep.
really good. And I need to see it going 7. It would be incredible.
All the pressure right now is on New York, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
100%.
you go up 3-0 and all of a sudden it's 3-2. Like, there's obviously pressure on Carolina because they were one. I think they were actually the Cup favorite, maybe just behind Edmonton, like going into the playoffs. So there's pressure there because you were supposed to succeed, and losing would still be a failure, even in the second round. But as far as like closing out the series and advancing, when you go up 3-0 at this specific moment in time, that is a ton of pressure on the Rangers to close this thing out. And now they're going back to Carolina for Game 6,
Yep,
which
it's
makes it a
gonna
little
be
bit more interesting.
rowdy. It's
It's
gonna
going to
be
be
so
rowdy.
rowdy.
you're gonna get I don't even know, you're gonna get some seismic storm down there with all the storm surges that are gonna be going on.
Oh, dude, we got to talk about um, the goalie situation for Carolina too, because it's been weird. They had Freddie Anderson in, and then they had Peter Kachekov in because Anderson was playing well, but I mean they're down 3-0, so they were like, they needed to change something,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
Rod puts back in Anderson, and he's starting now. He's playing like lights out hockey,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's like, oh
So
man,
he came out for game 4, Anderson?
he came out for game 3, and then Kachekov lost, and he put Anderson back in for 4. Yeah,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it's been Anderson for 5 as well. So it's like, holy shit, man! Like they rested Anderson, like they use it as like the guise of like that he needed rest.
Yeah.
So if he gets hot and can steal game 6, then anything can happen in a game 7.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you get a hot goalie, like whatever. I'm just going back to see because no, okay, so it was game 3 that he came out.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, is that what you said? Okay, I thought you
Yeah,
said
that's what I
okay,
said. And he went back
okay,
in for 4.
okay, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah,
I know my
yeah. I
shit.
mean, no, yeah, I was just fact checking you because I just want to make sure. I don't want to be feeding your new employee wrong information on the pod here. So no, yeah, that's I don't know, man. That's an interesting series because, like I said, I mean, it's it's weird. Like it's I find it fascinating, like the world of coaching and like levers you can pull to try and like get things done, and like whether it's the coaching change or something you say in the locker room or a lineup adjustment or something. And so yeah, if that ends up working and now Anderson gets hot, I mean, now you're 3-2. I mean, the team's got to be believing you're going back to Carolina, like we said. So you can, if you push that to game 7, I mean, anything can happen in a game 7. That's the best one. I want to get your take on this quick too, because I had this conversation with a patient of mine today who's a huge hockey fan, and we were talking about this series, and he was asking me what I thought, and we looked it up. You want to know how you want to guess how many reverse sweeps have happened historically in the NHL?
Oh God. 4?
Fucking right.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
So there's been 4 because we looked it up. I think he said the last one was it was the Kings. I think came back against the Sharks
San
down
Jose,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that was the last one, whatever year that was. I want to say it was like
16
05
or
or something.
17?
Okay, maybe it was closer. I don't know, but whatever.
Because the year, I want to say, I could be wrong because they played each other 2 years in a row in the playoffs. But the year the Flyers went to the finals in 2010, I think they reverse swept the Bruins in round 2.
Okay.
When
Well,
that,
anyways,
it's so crazy when that happens.
well, the question I have for you is, and what I asked my patient is like, I know it's hard to do, but I almost feel like it should happen more often because, like, and if you think that, like, you just think about like, it's just winning 4 games in a row, like that happens a lot during the league. Like a team
And
gets
you're at
hot, and
like,
I know it's against the same team, but I'm
and you're
like,
at max desperation too.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm honestly just kind of surprised it hasn't happened more because winning 4 games in a row is difficult. I know, but it's also like it's just 4 games, and when you're in that playoff atmosphere, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm just surprised it hasn't happened more as difficult as it is. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I get it 4 times in all of NHL history.
yeah, that's just kind of crazy. So yeah, so I guess we'll see
Do you
if
remember? Do you
history
remember
can
when
be
the
made.
Yankees were when the Red Sox reverse swept the Yankees?
Oh well, heck yeah, I do. Yeah, yeah. I have still. So we had my dad and I had a pretzel bin that we thought was magic for. So we still have it in my dad's attic. Yeah, it's the magic pretzel bin. It's got the '04 and '07 World Series on there.
That's so cool.
We brought that baby out, and yeah, Mark Bellhorn hit his home run. Oh yeah, I remember all those games.
All the
Man.
baseball memories from the
Oh yeah,
irrelevant sport running back into you.
yeah. They're flooding bags, Shillings, bloody sock. Oh yeah, all those good things. But yeah.
Uh, Dude, last one. Are the Boston Bruins cooked?
Um. Yeah, I mean, there's no way they're winning this. I don't think they get to eat 7 games.
They pulled the
Honestly.
last game out of their ass. Swayman was
Yeah,
friggin' unreal.
yeah. That save on Reinhardt, like 7 seconds left. There's like point blank.
Yep.
Reinhardt's just got a. He's just so good at knowing where to go. Like he just finds the spots, man. He's just and he yeah he gets the job done. But no, I think Boston's done. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into Sam Bennett at all. You hear his post game conference and what he said about the Marchand thing.
Dude, I love Sam Bennett so much. Like, I don't even care. Is there a place in hockey for punching a guy in the face discreetly? Probably not. But like, it's either he's gonna get hurt or Marchand's gonna get hurt, and in that moment, it wasn't gonna be Sam Bennett. So,
So what's your official take on that then, though? Like, do you
oh
think he meant to do it?
yes, 100%.
See, I don't. I'm on the other side of that.
No way, dude. You can see it. He puts his hand up. I guess he broke the other hand like recently. That's the injury that he was coming back from. So I don't know, dude. I think he did it on purpose. It looked like he did it on purpose.
Yeah, I don't know.
What makes you think that he didn't?
I don't know. It's just like hearing him talk about it after and how he's just saying like he was stabilizing himself and yeah, he's trying to brace for the hit, and it's just kind of how he got hit and his body went that way. Like I can just kind of like in my head, I could just kind of rationalize the physics of that, like how he gets hit and like how his body moves. Like it just seems like it's not impossible for it to be a freak thing, right? So I don't know. I just
This is
have a.
how this is how gaslighting works.
What do you mean?
Because he's like, oh yeah, I didn't do it, and you're like, maybe he didn't do it.
I thought that even from the beginning, and then when I obviously heard his like professional ass answer, on the post game, it swayed me even more. But
Well, I gotta tell you,
I don't know.
if you want to kiss Lord Stanley, you gotta be a dirty player, or you need dirty players on your team. You want to kiss the cup and lift it, you gotta be a Sam Bennett. So I'm the Florida Panthers. I
Yeah,
think they're gonna end this series.
yeah. I think they're done in 6, and I mean Bobrovsky's playing great. It's a good goaltending series for sure between Saban and Bobrovsky, but. Yeah, I don't think Boston gets to a game 7. Florida's just too deep for them, honestly. And then I hope that they get trounced in the next round by the Florida or by the New York Rangers or the Carolina Hurricanes, either one. And Okposo can enjoy the Stanley Cup Finals from his couch. All right, I think that's gonna do it for playoffs, right? I don't know if you
Yeah,
got
that was
anything
good.
else that you wanna
Nothing.
that you
No.
wanna talk about. So shout out
Oh,
to
you know what I gotta say about playoffs?
yeah, go ahead.
Just one thing. The fan bases that whine on Twitter about like every little thing. I
That's every
cannot
fan base. Dude.
I cannot wait to get in those fucking replies when we're in the playoffs and just start posting like a little gremlin, just trolling everyone when the Sabres are just running wild on a team. I
Like a
can't
little
wait.
Zach Benson goblin.
Yeah, I need it. I need it and I need it. I miss it. It's been too long. It's been, you know, Twitter wasn't even relevant the last time the Sabres were in the playoffs.
It's like you can't say anything because you just get the trouble of like, yeah, your team hasn't been in the playoffs in 13 years, bro.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I can't even say anything. It's like, oh, since you watch a shit team, you suddenly don't understand hockey. I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, but that's every fan base, dude. It's so funny. I've told you like the other what I forget what team it was. I don't know. Maybe it was Dallas. No, it wasn't Dallas. But I was like, I'm just scrolling after it was like after a loss. I'm like, I just want to see if like other fan bases are as toxic. And it was like, I'm like, this is a playoff team and this is a great team. And all the comments are just like, screw this player, screw this coach. I'm like, oh
Yep.
my gosh, it's just gonna happen no matter what because that's just social media. But uh, before we get into goofballs here and wrapping up the show, shout out to everybody who participated in the bracket this year. My brother-in-law Shecky, he's hanging in here in 4th place. Shecky 36, he's on the Rangers, and I believe Randy is Randazzle 21. He's on the Oilers. He's down at
I
the
got
bottom near me.
my buddy Eric is Tombstone and sitting
Okay.
at the 6th spot there.
Nice, yeah. So shout out to everybody who this because like I said, we were just hoping it wasn't going to be us two, and to have a little bit of competition here is fun, something we can talk about as we keep going. So thanks to everybody who's participating there. But we'll close it out with a goofball of the week. I don't. Do you have one this week, or you want me to take this?
I do. I have one, and it's going to be quick.
All right, you want me to do mine first? Or you want to go first?
No, I want to go first
All
because
right,
it's
go
funny.
ahead. Go ahead.
Have you seen the portal between New York City and Dublin that they put, like the Zoom
No,
portal?
no.
Okay, I don't know whose genius idea this was, but they put in the middle of, like, I want to say that it's in Central Park. I could be wrong, and it's definitely like somewhere in Dublin where there's a portal where, like, you look into it and you see the other side. So, like, New Yorkers are looking at Dublin citizens, and the people of Dublin are looking at New Yorkers.
Like in real time.
Yeah, it's in real time, dude. I'm gonna send you some shit, but I'm gonna talk about it now. Some girl, some like TikToker or OnlyFans girl, walked up to the portal from the New York side and just flashed it and started shaking her stuff around. And then someone on the Dublin side took their phone. Like, this is so bad, and like it got shut down after this. Took their phone and like took an image of 9/11 and put it like right up against the portal.
Oh my god.
So like whoever's idea it was to have a portal between two areas and didn't think that humans were pieces of shit that were gonna ruin it.
Yeah, seriously.
You're my goofball of the week.
Yeah. At first, like, I was like, wait, like, where's he going with goofball? Because this sounds pretty cool. Like,
Yeah,
like this portal sounds
you're
awesome. But then,
if you don't think that people are gonna take advantage of it and start trolling and
oh
doing
yeah,
crazy
dude.
stuff, you are a goofball.
Yeah. So is the world nowadays. Absolutely. But my goofball is my goofball is bitch Martyr. I'm sure by now everyone has seen this. This freaking. I have nothing against Mitch Marner. I think he's a great player, and he had a rough. He's under a lot of smoke right now for his play against Boston. In their series, and just seemed a little lackadaisical, I guess, not winning puck battles, not playing very aggressively, and he took a lot of heat. But he's my goofball because in his exit interview, so he's answering questions about his going into his final year of his 6 year, $65 million deal, like, possible trade scenarios. Does he want to stay? And he basically sums up saying, like, yeah, I'd love to play here. He says we're treated as kind of gods here. And I'm like,
What an unbelievable thing to say.
I couldn't believe this. I'm gonna throw my British in here. Whilst this may be true, because that's a badass word, whilst, I will say. Whilst this may be true, this is not the time and place to say that comment when you just got bounced out of the playoffs again by the same team that you haven't been able to get past forever.
And
Like,
dude,
come
Mitchie
on.
Marner was horrible in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
you can't be saying that.
You cannot be saying that you're got like you win a Stanley Cup, like you win a Super Bowl, like you're god level, like you're key to the city, all that stuff. Like if you're not gods because you got to the second round, last year. Like
One
that's
time,
yeah,
once.
yeah, and it was last year, right? Wasn't that just
Yep,
last year?
yep.
Yeah, like come on, like it not so like not only was it an inaccurate statement, but also just kind of like an awful time to say that. Just
He's like
unbelievable
one.
quote.
He's 100% getting traded. Like, they're gonna figure it out. It's like some way to move him.
Yeah, you
They
got.
have
I
to.
mean, they need to shake it up. Who do you think is going to get hired there?
I'm gonna say Berube.
You think so? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Apparently, he had interest here too.
Yep.
So, but obviously, like I said, Lindy's probably been a foregone conclusion for some time now. So,
Right.
and we all know that the double digit coach thing was a sham anyway. So, like, whatever. But all right, folks. Well, I believe that's going to do it, right? You got anything else
I got
for
nothing.
people? All right, we're back to our usual hour and 29 minute show. It's so crazy how it always works out like that. But
I know we had a long show, Doc, and I'm like, damn, we're gonna be here for 2.5 hours, and it ended up always being an hour and a half. Somehow it
yeah,
just
this
always
was
works
good.
out.
Yep. But good to be back in the saddle, and we'll probably be back next week with something else. And if you're listening or watching, you see Ryan hold up the Stanley Cup. You know what to do. Follow us over on Twitter or X at Sabres Spotlight, right? You can watch us on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and be sure to follow us on socials, rate, review, and subscribe to the show as well. But that's going to do it for today, and we will see everybody in the next episode. Later.
See ya.